Starting. Okay, we're live. Okay.
I'll start if that's okay.
Yep, go right ahead.
Okay. So I work at a restaurant, and I think the biggest potential crisis that we could face or that we have faced is a product or service crisis. And that includes product recalls, foodborne illness, concern about products and services like generated by the media. And I think a lot of um, potential crises surrounding small businesses is it's easier to harm a small business than like Wells Fargo or Starbucks or a lot of companies that you guys work for, just because with Yelp it's so easy. If one person had a bad experience, information spreads so quickly on the internet that it's really hard to contain that crisis once it's out. So I think as far as our prompt goes for this week, and focusing on how to prevent an actual crisis, I think a lot of it has to do with implementing a crisis management plan. And at least for the restaurant I work at, or for any restaurant really, there should be a focus on pre-crisis and preventing that. Make sure um, people are handling the food safely, everything's being cooked thoroughly, taking steps to make sure that this isn't going to happen instead of trying to deal with it post-crisis, and implementing their crisis management plan. It's a lot easier to just try and prevent it and focus on the pre-crisis.
I can go next.
Okay.
Well, there was back in 2008, my organization, we experienced, the economic downturn had definite repercussions in our organization. We were talking layoffs, potentially layoffs of employees. So this was definitely a crisis. And I wasn't working for the organization at the time. To come in probably a couple of years after everything kind of evened out. But I heard a lot of it. So what they had done in our organization, we employ probably around 1,500 employees. What they decided to do was there weren't any layoffs. They decided to restructure the organization, provide voluntary early retirements, early voluntary severances. And what they did during the pre-crisis planning was really pull together departments, kind of a cross-section of supervisors and managers and directors, and get kind of a good feel for what each of the departments in our organization were experiencing, and what areas we could do, because being paid by taxpayer dollars, it wasn't coming in. Our city was experiencing exodus. There's a lot of citizens that were leaving the area. But looking back on it now, things were voluntary in nature for employees to either leave the organization and take a severance, or they were reassigned to different work areas. So technically we avoided a quote-unquote layoff by doing that. I think in the future, if this happens again, I think we handle that tremendously well. And then I also do like Bailey's, the social media aspect. It can have huge repercussions, especially for an organization like mine. We have police and fire in our organization. If they handle something incorrectly, oh my gosh, social media will explode on us. So, those are my takes on the pre-crisis and crisis planning.
Yeah, I think the social media really does have a big impact on, those situations, because, there's just no getting around that anymore. And Yelp and all those things. I know I use it myself. I make sure that I, before I use a service or go anywhere, or, that I'm checking that. So that can be, I guess, a good thing and a bad thing if it's a crisis situation.
Definitely. This is Deanna. I can go next.
Okay.
So I guess one of the biggest things that kind of caught my eye was public perception, and how we're all already talking about social media. I get CFPB complaints almost daily from our customers. I work in the auto finance portion of Wells Fargo, so unfortunately, if you fall delinquent, obviously we're going to possibly repossess your vehicle.
Oh, wow.
So our customers obviously are not too happy when a repo man pulls up to their house to take away their vehicle. Um, so I guess one of the things that we deal with, well, at least I deal with on a daily basis, is social media. Comments or concerns. CFPB, again, regulations coming in almost daily. I'll have at least 20 to 25 complaints from the customers. And it's really just making sure that we're out in front of it. We're being honest. We're making sure that we're educating our customers. That's first and foremost what's most important. Because there's going to be the negativity, especially when it falls around somebody's, financial situation. They get into, hard times, tough times. But it's making sure that we have or give everybody the same treatment. Everybody understands what the possible outcomes will be. And then just trying to, re-steer them. So it's just, again, making sure that we're out in front of things. We're taking care of those negative impacts. Making sure that we're standing again by our ethic and morals and our visions and our values at all times, and kind of just redirecting. Not being in denial. Yeah, obviously, you are delinquent. We're going to be looking for your vehicle. But if you can come up with X amount, we can do something. We can help you. We've implemented a lot of strategies kind of behind that to just make sure that customer A and customer B are treated identical. We don't use their financial situation, I guess, as the key tool to determine what we're going to do. We just make sure that we treat everybody as fairly as possible. Because one of the things most recently is we implemented a new settlement strategy. And with that, we have now a one set financial settlement offer that we give everybody, where before it would depend on what your reason for delinquency are, and etc. So it's just making sure that we're, again, treating everybody fair. Education is huge, and then that's kind of how we get away from the perception of having all of our negative impacts.
I'll go next.
Okay.
So when you talk about pre-crisis and crisis, Starbucks had a similar crisis situation about a year ago. I don't know if you guys remember, but the whole computer system went down worldwide. And when that happened, you had to stay ahead of it, because how do you protect your customers? How do you protect your partners that are on that day? The social media one. My store was one of the stores that actually ended up on social media and on the Channel 9 News that day. So, that's when you go into the pre-crisis mode and like really getting on to like talking to your leaders, talking to organizations, talking to your help desk, figuring out what to do next, creating so that way, social media perceives it so different ways because they don't know what's going on, wanting to interview everyone, so kind of like making sure like you cover every single part of those crises, but also, like you said, have that strategy for your customers to, make them feel like, okay, it's okay, we're shut down, but what we're going to do next for you guys, and not making them feel like they're not welcome. So, and then I've worked in restaurant business, to where the ovens broke down and you had to close the doors. So it's just like when you think about pre-crisis mode, it is like staying ahead of the game. Like my team always ask me, they was like, why is it that you never think about what's in the moment right now? I said, because I'm not worried about what's going on right now, because I thought about that 2 hours ago. I'm always in that pre-crisis mode. I'm thinking about the next 2 hours or the next 4 hours, because we already got the first 5 minutes and the first hour covered already. But I need to make sure that I'm always in that pre-crisis mode, so that way I set you guys up for success. So that's what I look at when it comes to pre-crisis, is just staying ahead of that edge in that game.
Those were good examples.
Yeah.
What was the reason for the computer outage?
Technical difficulty, basically, I guess, in our help desk system. There was either a bug or something. They did normally we do like manual shuts down throughout the night. So we do updates, and an update happened after the wrong time. So it shut completely the whole Starbucks system down. And what was so cool about it is actually, something, because we still had to keep the workers on the clock. because we needed to keep this. They wanted us to keep the stores open, so we couldn't close stores down until we was allowed to. So they did, and then when we did shut down at 6 o'clock, they actually worldwide paid. It's called a catastrophe pay, and they paid all the workers a catastrophe pay, so that way everyone still got paid even when they went home. So if you were scheduled that day and you didn't come in and we called you off, Starbucks really stayed ahead of that crisis because it could have really been bad. And saying, what about my livelihood? I was banking on that paycheck.
Right.
I really needed this, And then they did like a lot of recovery certificates, and then like for customers, they did a lot of recovery. They really went into recovery mode, and they really handled it very good.
That's great. I never even heard about it, so they must have handled it pretty well.
Yeah,
Right?
it was about a year ago.
I can imagine being pretty upset about not getting my coffee that day, though.
For me, my store for the first hour, I gave everything for free. I made the decision. I just made the decision. If you was already in the store before I shut the door, I just gave it for free, and it was on me because it was the right thing to do.
Yeah. I can go next.
Okay.
So instead of like focusing on my job now, I kind of focused on something I plan on doing in the future. Upon graduation, I'm interested in entering like the human resource field. So out of the 10 crisis types, I chose human resource. And the text kind of states that I may have to be prepared for workplace violence, strikes, labor unrest, discrimination, sexual harassment, school or workplace shootings, theft, and fraud. In a way, I believe organizations can prepare leaders at all levels to respond in a crisis is simply by training. Whether it is drills or just getting taught what to do in a particular situation. And, human biases, institutional failures, and special interest groups are all barriers that a leader in the pre-crisis phase must overcome. Also, taking the crisis self-assessment will be a good way to tell if your organization is prepared enough to take on any uncertain events. And it is really scary to have to think about these kind of life-threatening occurrences, but with that being said, the best thing for anyone to do is face it and be ready for it to happen, whether it does occur or never does occur. So just being prepared is important.
That's great.
Absolutely.
So is that everybody but me, I think? Yeah. Okay. I was trying to think of something. What we do is not all that dangerous from a company standpoint, but there can be repercussions of things if we're not making sure certain pieces happen. Our company works with construction, and we work with utilities. And one of the things that we're asked to do at times is obviously install new utilities. So if you need electric or gas, cable TV brought out to your project, then you call somebody like us, and we help make that happen, contracts, designs, things like that. And every once in a while, we get asked to remove existing facilities. So they want to take down an electric pole, or they want to demo a building, but they've got electrical lines running to it, so they need somebody to come out and remove those facilities. So that was kind of one of the things I thought of, that could be very hazardous to somebody if it wasn't done properly. And we actually did have a situation a couple years ago that we did our part, created the contracts, got the designs, sent a crew out there to remove some electrical lines, and most electrical lines are underground now, so you can't really see them. So they had come out and snipped the lines. We had somebody go out and actually in the field verify that they had done that, which is probably the key point of our pre-crisis kind of checklist that we need. But when they went out to actually dig, and they're in these big, like backhoe, tractors, the lines had not been cut, and they were still live. And luckily, nobody was hurt, thank heaven. But it was very scary for everybody. I mean, hearts were pounding, and it was a very nerve-wracking moment. But I think what came out of that was really, from our end, was making sure that the next time we do that type of work, a removal like that, that we get confirmation. We not just going out and looking at it and saying, yeah, it looks like it was already done. We have our internal checklist that we have to make sure that the designs, the contracts, everything, appropriate. But really, I think that kind of third and final step is, actually verifying with the utility and having them tell us what day were you out there, and give us a description of what your crew did that day, so that we know when we say, yeah, it's all clear, that we've, kind of looked under every rock to make sure that it actually did happen the way that we thought it was going to happen. Because, if we're not doing that, then we could, somebody could have died that day. So yeah, that was probably the only thing I could, kind of think of from a, I guess, crisis standpoint. There's things that happen all the time, but to label it a crisis is, was hard for me to kind of think of. But, that could certainly happen. So.
I think another thing too for a crisis, and I know we didn't touch on it, was like safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And safety and security, and protecting our partners and protecting our customers. Recently, Starbucks had a lot of string of robberies. So we actually really do a monthly safety and security meetings with our partners to really train them on, certain things in the store, and one is theft because they was walking in with notes and saying they had a gun, and then they was like pretty much walking out with the money, or they was following the partners in. So safety and security and preparing your employees for pre-crisis is very critical to an organization, and so helping your partners and supporting them to knowing how to handle certain situations, of why it's important to walk in with two or more employees, or not to fight back, or not to argue, or just give it. Your life is not worth it. So I think safety and security in pre-crisis is really important in organizations as well too.
Good example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody have anything else to add?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm going to stop the broadcast, but if everybody can hold on just for a minute.